Dr. Warner, let me repeat the question I've just put to you. What did you mean by saying to Nurse Dowling, you'd better tell Mr. Simpson to go and find a better equipped hospital if he wants to get properly treated? Is Rudkin Hospital so ill-prepared to dispense medicine?
I have just explained. I was merely being sarcastic. I was annoyed at the number of things that had gone wrong that day. I did not mean it.
What did you mean by a better equipped hospital?
Because of the faulty X-ray prints, which meant a further delay in completing Mr. Simpson's examination, I said, in anger and not loudly to the nurse, that he ought to find a better place. I just said it. I did not mean it. I don't see how much more I can explain.
Was this the first time things had gone wrong in the accident department?
Well, things are always going wrong. Minor things. In any department of any hospital at any given time.
So you would refer to all hospitals as badly equipped?
Dr. Warner has accused no hospital of being badly equipped, my lord. This is a phrase introduced by my learned colleague.
Would you say you could, even in sarcasm, refer to better equipped hospitals in most accident departments elsewhere?
The witness, excellent record though he has as a doctor, my lord, has made no claims to omniscience.
Think again, Mr. Fry.
Very well, Doctor. Let me ask you this. With the conditions prevailing in Rudkin at the time of Mr. Simpson's visit, and by conditions I refer to faulty X-ray equipment, staff shortage, faulty lighting, an inadequate system of sorting out malingerers from bona fide patients, with these conditions prevailing, can you honestly say that you were able to provide Mr. Simpson, or indeed any patient, with all reasonable care and attention?
Yes.
Dr. Warner, you have maintained your assertion of having given all reasonable care and attention to the deceased.
Yes.
Despite the inconveniences you suffered on this particular day.
Yes.
Now, have these inconveniences caused you delays in the past? Have they prolonged the examination of a patient?
Yes, often.
How many times has a patient admitted into your care died because of an incomplete examination?
None.
And what, in your opinion, was the chief reason for the incompletion of this examination?
Well, the fact that he left before I had finished.
What caused him to leave before you had finished?
Well, I suppose his own impatience. He'd repeatedly said he was in a hurry and there was nothing wrong with him.
Doctor, is there any way open to hospital authorities to prevent a person from leaving, ignoring all expert advice to the contrary, if that person so desires?
No, none.
Thank you, Doctor.
We would simply ensure that he signed a note to that effect to clear us.
Did someone offer Mr. Simpson such a note for signature?
No.
Of course they didn't, because no one was attending him at the time of his departure.
If your lordship has no more questions.
No. You may step down, Dr. Warner.
If it please the court, my lord, I should like to call my final witness, Mr. Frost, who represents the management committee of the Rudkin General Hospital.
Frost,
He was not on our original list of witnesses, my lord, but the defence would like to ask him a few questions.
Oh, very well.
Take the Bible in your right hand and repeat the oath after the associate. I swear by Almighty God.
I swear by Almighty God.
The evidence I shall give this court.
The evidence I shall give this court
Shall be the truth.
shall be the truth.
You'll have to take
I've
got nothing prepared.
You'll manage.
My lord,
Yes, Mr. Fry?
matters concerning another case in hand urge me to ask your lordship's indulgence and to allow me 20 minutes' absence.
Oh, I would hate to stand in the way of the due process of law, Mr. Fry.
Much obliged, my lord.
Frost is that as a candidate witness for the defence. Would you like to play it cool, Derek? But don't let them get away with anything.
Serve on the management committee.
Nick, I'm sorry.
What for?
What's going to happen? Only I hadn't said
If I hadn't said it, you mean?
Well, I'd forgotten all about it until that lawyer started going on and on.
I can't get used to the fact that everything sounds so different when it's read out in court. What is the truth of anything?
I'll never forgive myself if anything happens to you.
Yes, you will. Oh, I don't mean that in a snide way, Helen, but you will. It'll be my fault. A doctor can't afford to have a short temper, and that's that.
You know, I I often think back to when we worked at Rudkin together.
Thinking you're glad to be out of it, I bet.
No, just the opposite.
You're a glutton for punishment, Helen. Hardly a day went by without me yelling at you.
Well, where I work now, nobody shouts at me at all. It's so boring.
Where are you living these days?
Same place.
Same number.
Thank you, Mr. Frost. I was anxious for it to be made clear that Rudkin General Hospital has never before been involved in a lawsuit for negligence.
Mr. Jones.
Mr. Frost, I am obliged for your concise account of Rudkin's previous record, and I'm much heartened by what you say. However, we are dealing with the present, not the past. And during this present time, your hospital has been sued for negligence.
I was merely answering the questions put to me.
Of course you were. I have just a few points.
Points or questions, Mr. Jones?
I beg pardon, my lord. Questions?
Oh, I wanted to clarify whether you were about to make a speech or not. That was all.
Mr. Frost, we have heard how a great number of things were going wrong on the day Mr. Simpson tragically died.
We have heard how some things were going wrong, I think.
Some things? Light bulbs that blew out? X-ray prints that were unsatisfactory? Malingerers? A staff short?
Mr. Jones, we have been through all this before, I feel.
I'm sorry, my lord, but I was trying to take up Mr. Frost on his replies to my learned colleague here regarding the previous record of the hospital.
Very well, but it might help to come to the point a little sooner. I don't want to cramp your style, you understand.
Mr. Frost. Oh, I'm much obliged, my lord. Mr. Frost, from the evidence we have heard in this court, it would appear that in the past your hospital has been efficient, ably run, and very adept at its function. However, today it is not so.
Totally untrue.
That today it is ill-equipped to deal with the enormous pressures placed upon it, unable to fulfill the functions as the proper ones of such an establishment, to diagnose illness and effect a cure.
You are stating that on the evidence of one alleged case of negligence, the hospital, which I represent in this court, is unfit to serve as a place where the public might seek and receive medical treatment. I strongly resent any such suggestion.
Sorry if I have given that impression. I did not intend...
It's all right, Mr. Elliot. I ceased to take notes some minutes ago. Mr. Jones, I take your zeal and enthusiasm into account, but I find your line of questioning too strong for the replies I think you are seeking.
I'm properly corrected, my lord. I apologize to Mr. Frost if I have caused him any anxiety.
Thank you, Mr. Frost. That was the final witness for the defense, my lord.
Nothing to worry about. All I prescribe is a stiff drink later on.
Go on.
If your lordship pleases, I would like, in summing up for the plaintiff, to re-emphasize the crucial phrase around which this case revolves. The question which faces the court is, did Mr. Simpson receive all reasonable care and attention while under examination for his injuries in the accident department of Rudkin General Hospital? My lord, I am, as always, indebted to my colleague for the compassion he has shown during this case for the plaintiff, Mrs. Simpson. We are dealing here with an accepted procedure which does on occasions use the words all reasonable care and attention with regard to accident patients. My lord, our case is simply this, that although we are aware of the difficult conditions under which all hospital accident departments labour, nevertheless, the lack of proper supervision of Mr. Simpson while he was undergoing an examination for injuries involving a head wound enabled him physically to leave the precincts of the hospital before that examination was completed. As a result, he died from a hitherto undiagnosed complication which might well have been discovered had the examination been completed. Therefore, he did not receive all reasonable care and attention. It is our submission, my lord, that this constitutes a clear and unequivocal case of negligence on the part of the hospital.
Thank you. Mr. Elliot?
My Lord, my learned colleague has generously pointed out that the defendants in this case, requiring no prompting from me or anyone else, have shown a great deal of sympathy for the plaintiff, Mrs. Simpson, in the loss of her husband. Now, adequate proof of this is found in their decision not to question the amount of damages claimed against them. Our defence, Your Lordship, simply takes the operative words reasonable care and attention, which incidentally were first introduced into this case by the plaintiff's counsel. Now, we argue that the facts demonstrate these words were fully adhered to by the hospital authorities. If one were to select one of these words and, so to speak, hold it up to the light for further investigation, that word would be reasonable. Now, by using this adjective rather than, say, all conceivable or all possible care and attention, the authorities take into account, we submit, that existing conditions in which this care and attention is performed. Now, it's our contention that the word reasonable is designed in this phrase to take into account the sometimes less than perfect conditions prevailing in an accident department when running at full steam in the execution of its duties. And such was the case on the day when Mr. Simpson was taken to the accident department of Rudkin General. And we've heard in particular the evidence of Dr. Warner, a witness who has amply demonstrated his sincere and complete dedication to his work. Now, Dr. Warner has frankly described the inadequacies of the department. Staff shortages, temperamental equipment, a constant use, Your Lordship, of delicate machinery will inevitably lead to mechanical trouble. Hence, I submit, it's all reasonable care and attention which is demanded. It is our assertion, therefore, that all reasonable care and attention was paid to Mr. Simpson. It was a decision arrived at by Mr. Simpson himself to leave the hospital, when he was left alone for a short while the staff were engaged in emergency work elsewhere. And it was this decision that was the cause of his tragic and untimely death. My Lord, that is the case for the defence.
Thank you. It's getting late. I will give judgment at 10:35 tomorrow morning.
Well, I liked your performance, James. Most eloquent.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Sorry you had some unpredictable witnesses.
Yes, I can see you are.
Ah, James, you know what I think. One wins a few, one loses a few. I stopped being smug when I was Derek's tender age.
I wasn't feeling smug just now.
Barry was rushing about a bit. What was the matter?
I like to keep busy.
How come you get all the attractive clients?
Oh, I have great charisma. Well, it was some time ago.
Had some nasty moments with those two, I think.
Remains to be seen what the judge makes of them.